I can't work. The BLM's, I have a stop work order. I'm not allowed to do anything. I'm supposed to remove my possessions from this mine, close up this mine, reclaim the surface, and leave before I even get a hearing. The original track was probably put down in the very, very early 1900s. And then we've had to repair it, we had to rebuild it all. That's part of the reason a lot of our efforts have been spent on development work, because the ties had rotted out and we had to basically relay the track, resecure the track. Had to re-timber, clean out the slides. So we've done lots of work that hasn't been productive in the sense of producing ore, but it's absolutely necessary for the workings of the mine. Now that, by God, is genuine Galese leverite. Leverite is a miner's term for you should leave it right where you found it.
How long have you been mining?
Total?
Sure.
Since the mid-70s.
How long have you been on the claim here?
I bought my share last year. I was here the year before helping them to do development and open the mine up, because there was a lot of work had to be done before the money started to come out of the hill. This is the original listing from the Galese Mining District book that existed. These are the official records prior to the formation of Josephine County. This book is in the vault at the Josephine County Recorder's Office. This is the original location notice. This is what we date our claim to this mine from, this original location notice. This mine has been held by a miner in continuous possession since this. Therefore, we're questioning how the BLM has surface management authority on a mine that they have never actually had possession of. The 1872 Mining Act granted exclusive possession and enjoyment, that's the wording of the law, to the miner. It was as property. The miner controlled it. The surface was the miner's. The mineral was the miner's. The Surface Resource Act was passed to address problems with the misuse of the 72 Act. People were claiming land, building vacation cabins, cutting timber, grazing, so there was a valid reason for adjusting it. The claims that were filed prior to July 23rd, 1955 were granted grandfather status. They still maintained their surface right. Anything filed after that date, the miner had possession of the mineral, he did not have possession of the surface.
The confusion appears to be on BLM, is they're trying to put you under the administration of 1955, but in reality you were administered by the 1872 Act.
That's correct. They're claiming surface authority that they can't prove that they have. There was a process for the BLM to acquire surface to pre-55 claims, but it was a process that required either a direct relinquishment from the miner of Form 5 or an act within the agency that resulted in a judgment that severed the surface. But you did have a process that you had to go through in order for them to do that, and all these were supposed to be recorded, proper serving of, there was service of the papers that they had to maintain the records of. There was a whole series of events that had to go forth before the BLM could sever the surface. The BLM is now claiming that they have the surface of this mine, and yet they can produce, after repeated requests, pleas, entreaties, and a legal notice, to produce any form of documentation that shows they have the surface right. Their response to me was, the master title plat map says we have surface, so we have surface. Now, the problem with that is the master title plat map also does not show the Sugar Pine mine, which has been here for 140 years. It hasn't moved an inch.
So it appears that BLM may be relying on outdated or
inaccurate information.
information.
And
what does surface mean? when you say surface right versus everything, I mean, what does that allow?
The BLM, if they maintain surface right, any surface disturbance has to be approved by them. You have to file a plan of operation and put up a bond. And they can say yes or no, because they have the Endangered Species, Clean Water Act, all these other constraints. When we talk of the surface under the 1872 Act, this is like private property. This is not under the management authority of the BLM. They like to say that it is, but there's multiple court cases that affirms it's not.
So BLM, if I understand correctly, you've tried to clear this up and you've made a FOIA request to them?
I've put in 14 individual FOIA requests.
How long back have those FOIAs been?
February 11th.
How many responses have you got?
2. I received 2 in the mail today. Today is April 17th.
And you put these back in, so you've been trying to get them to show and document how they feel they have surface rights.
That's correct. I've asked for them to show me in writing where they derive their surface management authority, and thus far the only thing I've gotten from the BLM, aside from stonewalled, stalled, and ignored, was 2 notices of non-compliance claiming that I'm in violation.
And that non-compliance is based not on 1872 law, it's based on 1955 regulation.
That's correct.
Has the BLM done any damage to you already in operating this mine?
Yeah, I can't work. I can't work. The BLM, I have a stop work order. I'm not allowed to do anything. I'm supposed to remove my possessions from this mine, close up this mine, reclaim the surface, and leave before I even get a hearing. And the BLM is trying to bully me and force me off my land at the risks of totally violating my 4th and 5th Amendment rights, and I refuse to budge. I am not leaving. They are not taking me out of here until I get my day in court. This is a constitutional republic. We're a nation of laws, and that includes the federal agencies.
So how did this come to be? How did you get the OathKeepers in here? How did that happen?
A BLM officer, law enforcement officer who I do not know his name, and contract deputy Stanton came in on Monday last week. I don't remember the date. They came in obstinately to serve George papers, which we've already been served, so they came in, as far as I'm concerned, to see if we had moved out so they could start burning stuff. Let's just call it what it is. And
when you say burning stuff, what do you mean burning stuff?
They burn cabins. They burn hundreds of cabins in this country since the 70s.
So within the Siskiyou mountain range here, BLM has a history of burning cabins.
Repeatedly.
And
they burned one on these set of claims in the 80s on the Golden Cycle over there.
Oh, so they burned a cabin close by?
On my group of claims, yes.
Oh, so they have a history of coming in and burning cabins with no notice?
Yes.
Okay, so as you said, so what was your concern about their notice of them showing up here?
When the officers went to leave, the first thing they did is they came up to Danny, who's the caretaker, and said, oh, this is the guy we're having a problem with. And then when they were getting ready to leave, George says, look, we're law-abiding constitutional people. And Deputy Stanton turned to him and says, well, I have a problem with the Constitution. And at that moment I realized that the agencies that I rely on to protect my rights weren't going to protect my rights. So I went to the OathKeepers, because that's what they say they'll do.
So with that, what happened with bringing the OathKeepers in here?
The government has become a little more amenable to my request. They have actually sent me 2 FOIAs now. That is the sum total of their purpose to be here, is to protect my rights to due process and to preserve my property until such time as I get my day in court.
So currently this is not a standoff?
No, this is not a standoff. This is simply a protective measure to prevent the BLM from further violating my rights and destroying my property without due process.
So you would describe this as a security operation to protect your constitutional rights?
That's correct.
There has not been any confrontation with BLM?
No, there has been no confrontation. There has been no implied threat, overt threats, or any such thing. All correspondence with the BLM has been held through my attorney. George and I have no contact with the BLM. We'll let the attorney deal with them.
Do you believe the reason BLM did not come in was because of the OathKeeper president and 3%er presence?
I'm absolutely positive that the BLM hasn't destroyed my property because it has been protected, as have been my rights, by a group of folks.
Have you had any concerns about the way they've been running the operation, the security operation?
No, sir.
You have any concerns that they need to leave, or you want them here?
They came at my request. I requested their presence. I still request their presence until such time as I achieve my due process. They can stay here and see to it that justice is served.